You know, in Silicon Valley, some startups seem like they're born with a golden ticket. I'm talking a rock star founder, an army of investors, and a mission to completely upend a billion-dollar industry. Atrium had all of that and then some. And yet, it turned into one of the most spectacular flameouts in recent memory. So, let's dig into the story of how a company that had every single advantage still managed to fail.
Okay, let's start with a number. $75.5 million. This wasn't just a little seed money, this was a war chest, and it came from the absolute top tier of venture capital, including the legendary Andreessen Horowitz. So you can imagine, with that kind of backing, the expectations were just through the roof.
Now for the second number, 36. That's how many months it took for that massive pile of cash to just evaporate. From launch to shutdown in only 3 years. The speed of this collapse is honestly what makes this whole story so fascinating.
Which brings us to the real question, right? How does a company that seemingly cannot lose, with all the money, all the talent in the world, get it so wrong, so incredibly fast? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
To really understand the failure, we've got to go back to the beginning, back to the vision. And in 2017, the vision for Atrium was, well, it was unbelievably ambitious. They didn't just want to build a new company, they wanted to become the Apple of law.
The man behind this whole thing was Justin Kan. Now, this isn't just any founder. We're talking about the co-founder of Twitch, the streaming giant that he sold to Amazon for almost $1 billion. So when Justin Kan has an idea, you better believe people with very, very deep pockets are listening. This background was a massive part of that golden ticket.
This really lays out the whole battleground perfectly. On one side, you have the old-school legal world. It's all about relationships, confusing hourly bills, and, let's be honest, it's pretty slow. Atrium's vision was the exact opposite of that. It was going to be tech-driven, scalable, fast, predictable, and all for one simple subscription fee. So here's how it was supposed to work. Atrium was this interesting hybrid. It was a tech company building software to automate all the boring legal stuff, and it was a law firm that actually used that software. Clients would pay a flat monthly fee, somewhere between $500 and $1,500, and get access to everything, the tech and the lawyers. The idea was so good that huge names like Andreessen Horowitz and the famous startup incubator Y Combinator just jumped right on board. But here's the thing. A great pitch deck and a charismatic founder can only get you so far. The promise was huge, but as Atrium actually started doing business, the reality of what they were trying to build began to sink in, and pretty soon, some serious cracks started to show in the foundation.
Let's talk about the first and, honestly, the most important crack. It's a concept called product market fit. It's really just a simple and kind of brutal question that every single startup has to answer. Are you building something that a big enough group of people actually needs to buy?
And you don't have to take my word for it. Here's the founder, Justin Kan himself, looking back on it after the company failed. This quote is absolutely crucial. He's basically admitting that just throwing more money at a company that hasn't figured out its market, it's a recipe for disaster. They had the money for sure, but they never really had the fit.
So here's the heart of the problem, this fundamental mismatch. Clients, especially startups trying to figure out complex legal stuff, they don't just want a piece of software. They want a trusted advisor, a human being they have a relationship with. Atrium was trying to sell a one-size-fits-all tech product to a market that really values one-on-one personalized service.
And that first mistake leads directly into the second huge one, premature scaling. This is what happens when a company starts spending a ton of money on growth, hiring tons of people, getting big, fancy offices, before it's even proven that the core business actually works. It's kind of like building the second floor of a house before the foundation is even dry.
In the numbers, wow, the numbers really tell the story here. At its peak, Atrium had around 200 employees, but only 450 clients. Just think about that. That's roughly 2 clients per employee. The math just doesn't work. The company was just incredibly bloated and was burning through cash at a rate that was completely unsustainable.
So, all of these problems, no product market fit, scaling way too fast, it all led to a pretty quick and inevitable ending. But the way it ended, that's where we find the most powerful lesson of all. It's a real irony in this whole world of tech disruption. The collapse was just unbelievably fast. In 2017, it's just an idea with $10 million. By 2019, they've got over 75 million and 200 employees. And then, they hit the panic button. In January 2020, they made this desperate pivot, laying off all the lawyers to focus only on the tech. But it turns out the clients wanted the people, not just the platform. 2 months later, it was completely over.
And this right here, this is the ultimate punchline of the entire Atrium story. The tech company, the part with the famous founder and the $75.5 million, it failed. Completely. But the law firm? The human part they tried to automate and eventually got rid of? Well, those lawyers spun out, started their own firm, took Atrium's clients with them, and they are still in business today. The human element won.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? The billion-dollar blind spot for Atrium was this belief that every single industry needs a radical, tear-it-all-down tech disruption. They forgot that for some services, especially the ones built on trust and human expertise, the answer isn't a revolution, it's a thoughtful evolution.
And that leaves us with one last really crucial question to think about. When is it the right move to completely disrupt an old model, and when is it smarter to just build upon it and make it better? Atrium's story is a really powerful reminder that knowing the difference, well, that can be worth more than all the venture capital in the world.